Welcome to Bunch Formation, your newest favorite college football show. I am Chris Vannini, and we could lose this game by 100, and it doesn't matter.
Well, it's the games next week that really matter, Chris. I am David Ubben, and I dare the Rose Bowl to file a restraining order against me. I might file one first, to be honest with you.
Yeah, we'll get into that in a minute. Folks, welcome back to Bunch Formation. Big show today. We've already done our CFP playoff rankings reactions. That is earlier in your feed. We've actually been having a couple of 4-episode weeks here between the live ranking show on Tuesday nights. Appreciate everybody who's popped by to do those live. Then we throw it in the feed afterward, as well as after dark. And I think we're going to do another one this weekend, correct?
Yeah, I'm not at a game. You're not at a game. Chris, I will say, I was talking with my wife earlier today, and she was asking why we record every day. And I was like, we don't. And then I was doing the math from Sunday, and I was like, well, we did record Saturday and then Sunday and then Tuesday and then Wednesday. I was like, so we don't record every day, but I can see how you got there.
Yeah, look, it's better to just talk this out in person than to just type it out on Twitter, right? At least we're doing with this one with our friends. Appreciate everybody who's been around for all these episodes. We have done a lot of episodes the last number of weeks, but it's because we're in the stretch run of the season here. We've got playoff elimination games this weekend in week 12. Pat Narduzzi is saying the quiet part out loud about Pitt Notre Dame. LSU and Brian Kelly are taking a very weird pivot. The Big Ten is falling apart at the seams over billions of dollars, potentially. So we got a lot to get into. I guess first, no update yet on YouTube TV as of recording as it relates to ESPN. Our colleague Andrew Marchand at The Athletic has said they're close. Disney's got an earnings call, I think, this week that could spur something. Hope it happens, because watching games without it has been a pain in the butt for me and for the other YouTube TV people out there. So hoping for the sake of everybody that gets figured out while David's all safe over in cable land.
Hello, we're back.
Remember a couple weeks ago, David, we talked about sports bars and the problems with the TVs setups.
Mm-hmm. I will say, before we go, in South Bend, Indiana, Manny's in downtown South Bend, fantastic screen distribution. And also, not a sports bar, but I had been there many times. And I went back to Knoxville for the Alabama game. I went to Aubrey's during the day, because I knew that it's not really a sports bar. It's kind of like a nicer-ish restaurant, but they have like a bar section with 6 TVs. I walked in there. The distribution was impeccable. Now, these are still the outliers in my experience, but if we're going to call out the bad, we should call out the good as well. So shout out to Manny's in South Bend, Indiana, and the Aubrey's on Cedar Bluff in Knoxville, Tennessee.
And the walk-ons in Baton Rouge, as I mentioned a couple of weeks ago. I say this because that clip that I clipped from that conversation and put it on TikTok, and it blew up like crazy on TikTok. It's now still blowing up crazy on Instagram, to the point where sports bars are posting the clip and saying, hey, folks, it's not a problem here. Come on down to so-and-so. We've got you covered, which let's take some credit. You be the change you want to see in the world. We're manifesting better sports bar distributions, notable because of that YouTube TV issue, where I'm sure there are people going to sports bars because they don't get ESPN on their TV. This is a big moment these couple of weeks for sports bars. And I like to think we have perhaps motivated some of them to also, by the way,
go ahead.
Lots of comments from people shouting out their sports bars that they go to that are good. So I'm glad we're not just complaining about all of them. We are, like we just did, highlighting the ones that do a good job of it. We appreciate your service.
I'd like to say I'm starting with the man in the mirror, Chris, but I don't own a sports bar. And when I have the control in my house, we are on point with screen distribution. So listen, it's not an issue. When I'll be at home on the couch this weekend, you can bet that screen distribution is going to be letting us watch everything we need to see this weekend to talk for this show and obviously get some story ideas for our day job at The Athletic.
So we also got a lot of feedback from our conversation last week about paper tickets and different ways people go about it. And some things that certain teams are doing, like the Chicago Blackhawks apparently let you get a paper ticket after the game, or some places they say if you go to the ticket office and ask, they will give you one. There are a couple of apps out there that people passed along that can help you do that. So for the people who want the paper tickets, like I do, there are different ways to do it. And that's good to see. Again, trying to create those things we want to see. All right.
It's worthwhile. It's worth noting, Chris, before we get into the show, that we are recording this show while I am watching UMass football. So if the vibes are off, it's the Minutemen's fault, the last winless team in the FBS.
Yeah, that's a good call. I should turn on my ESPN app to watch that since I can't turn on YouTube TV to watch it. Folks, check out the show notes for timestamps if you want to jump ahead to other things. Send all your feedback to bunchformationpod@gmail.com. We need some more nominations for Remember Some Guys. We have gotten a couple more, but always happy to refresh that list. And we're Bunch Formation on all your social medias where you may have seen the clip about the sports bars. And also, please leave a 5-star review. If you do, we will read it on the show. None this week, but we did get a couple of comments in different ways I wanted to touch on real quick. I got a Twitter DM from someone named Joe Mills who said, "Hey Chris, long time Until Saturday Bunch Formation listener. I graduated with a master's in sports analytics in May and have been on the job hunt since. This is my second go around unemployed for a period of time. And sports podcasts like yours have helped me get through the hours and hours of resume tweaking and applications. I recently interviewed for a job and felt really good about it, but got told I wouldn't hear back until after Thanksgiving. Lo and behold, earlier today, while listening to your podcast, I got the official offer and I'm excited to start my career in sports. Safe to say Bunch Formation is my good luck charm. Thanks to you and David for having such a special pod, and I can't wait to listen more." Congratulations to Joe, and thanks for listening, and thanks for reaching out. I responded to you on DM as well. He also said, and if David complains about not getting this wholesome message, only verified users can DM him, and I ain't paying $8 a month for a blue check mark.
So we investigated this, and I think at some point in the, Twitter consistently changes their rules. I think at some point this was set as a default setting. I have since turned it off. So I like, because people, I've had random people reach out to me, with tips and interesting stuff and things to check up on and all that. And I would say 85 to 90% of the time it's BS, but then sometimes you get interesting stuff that does lead to bigger things. So I try to keep the DMs open.
Got a comment on Spotify from SJ Shields 360. "David, please watch an Ohio State game and your opinion will change. Julian saying is most definitely a Heisman frontrunner, and Ohio State defense is nearly flawless regardless of strength of schedule. These are still mostly P4 programs they are playing against. Anyways, love the podcast, but the Buckeyes will prove themselves in the rest of the season."
Listen, I don't disagree he's a Heisman frontrunner, but unless he sets Indiana on fire and sets Michigan on fire, he's not going to be on my ballot. I'm sorry. Just not going to happen.
Fair enough. Comment on Instagram regarding our Gus Johnson conversation. Person says, "Bald guy is right. I will never hate on Gus."
Listen, there's a lot of other things he could. There's a lot of other things he could have used to identify me. So I'll take bald. Bald is factually correct. So we'll go with it.
And Ian Stokely on YouTube, "Ethically speaking, I don't think that Ubben should comment on stories that involve shitting on the Rose Bowl."
Can we clarify the Rose Bowl take for the record
We've done this a few times, but I will.
I know.
To ignore
Listen,
it.
I liked the Rose Bowl. I'm fine with the Rose Bowl. I was annoyed that the Rose Bowl was single-handedly holding up playoff expansion because they wanted to make sure that they could have their precious sunset over the San Gabriels. The sun sets everywhere. It even sets on the Walmart in Arlington, Texas, as Chris can personally attest. And when the Rose Bowl was in AT&T Stadium, it was still fine. That's my only issue with the Rose Bowl is the haughty nature and the feeling that the sport needs them more than they need the sport. And that is just not the case.
There is an update on this. And to do that, we will jump into the news segment of this show, the Media Scrum.
That's why I don't read the newspaper. Because it's garbage.
Earlier this week, the Rose Bowl and the city of Pasadena filed a request for a temporary restraining order against UCLA that they wouldn't be able to basically play outside the county anywhere. That was denied on Wednesday by the judge. So there's no judge who's going to immediately stop UCLA from moving to SoFi Stadium, at least now, but this matter remains ongoing. A little bit of an update there. Elsewhere in the Big Ten, we haven't actually talked about it on the show for a while because, frankly, I have found the topic really kind of boring and maybe overhyped. But this private capital deal, the Big Ten is very far down the road on. Figured we should discuss like what this actually means for the Big Ten, why, as of now, Michigan, USC are not on board, and just kind of the whole thing of it. If you don't know, the Big Ten is close to voting on agreeing to a 20-year, $2.4 billion private capital deal with a California pension fund investment group. That would be $2.4 million upfront to the Big Ten, an average of $135 million per school. Although it's going to be tiered based on basically how good you are. The bigger schools are going to get more than the lesser schools, but that's the average. It would create Big Ten Enterprises, a new private venture essentially to handle all the Big Ten business, which includes the media rights. And I think the pension fund would get basically a 10% stake in that. It is not private equity. This group has a say in what the Big Ten decides to do with its business. That's not what it is. It's basically kind of like a loan, pretty much. Most notable to me, the thing I don't think it's talked about enough is that in order for this to get approved because of the length of it, the grant of rights, the thing that binds the Big Ten schools together through their TV deals, would be extended to 2046, a 10-year extension from the current one that goes to 2036. And Michigan and USC, again, are not on board for a few reasons. One, they feel like it would bail out the lower schools that are in more financial issue. Michigan board doesn't love a public school getting involved in this. USC's been a little bit more quiet. Ohio State so far has been on board, though they haven't said much. So that's the background. David, what do you? And also, I guess Yahoo Sports also reported the Big Ten is considering going through the vote and doing it and approving it without Michigan and USC if needed. It's basically a threat. We don't know if that's going to happen. So what do you think of this whole thing?
I still am not 100% sure what it means and what it looks like. Is this basically, as I understand, is this basically the Big Ten selling itself more or less?
It's really just the Big Ten getting a $2.4 billion loan up front and then paying it off through a cut of your future TV deal. That's pretty much what it is. It's not private equity where someone's coming in and ordering you how to do things and slashing things. It's not. It's
so the idea.
Is
that buy us time on the rev share stuff so we can reallocate our funds in the next 20 years to where it makes sense.
So in terms of the money part of it, like I have yet to, based on talking to people, I've yet to really be convinced on why they need this money now and what you're going to do with it. Like it can be, part of it can be toward rev share, but that's not really the main purpose you really want to do it.
Well, but rev share is upending the entire finances of campuses. And so
sort of,
I
but
think
you've
that's
also
the
got
idea.
But you've got debt payments and facilities that it cost a lot more that some Big Ten athletic departments are in the red and have certain things. And you could use this money for a lot of different things. Maybe you want to upgrade your stadium, build more suites. That's going to bring you in more money. That's an example of like something you would want. Like if you put in this toward coaching salaries and rev share, I don't think that's going to work. Like it's a waste. You want to use this money to make you more money. That's the point. That's what the California pension fund wants from this. So I've yet to be really convinced financially why they need this. Now, look, some schools are in the red, like I said, and you could use this money to pay off a lot of different things or catch up on a lot of different things. I mean, that's fine. That's essentially part of it. I think what is most, but like, so I've asked, like, why not just get a loan from a bank? Why does it have why does it have to be this group? And what I've been told basically is like, because it's so big, you usually have to go to an investment group rather than a bank. A bank is not typically giving out a $2 billion loan, for example.
Maybe not your bank. I don't know, Chris.
And they may have some experts that could advise on like, here's the best way to make money doing this or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, on paper, it doesn't sound like a terrible idea in the same way that obviously private equity was. The issue is I don't know that I trust college athletic departments or even universities to be fiscally responsible. And that is part of taking a massive loan, is saying like, okay, we're going to take this money on, we're going to pay it back, but we'll be fine. We're going to make sense. And it's like, this feels like step one in possibly taking another loan to pay out this loan, and then eventually turning to the mafia, and then somebody gets kneecapped. Like that's kind of where it feels like it's going.
I think the Big Ten has been absolutely horrible in selling its view on this situation. And this is not a surprise considering how terrible they have been at selling their expanded playoff ideas. Like that crew up there that works in Chicago, they have no idea how to like help craft and set a narrative. Things leak out, they stay silent, and it allows everybody to pile on them about how terrible this is over and over and over and over, and all of a sudden everybody hates it. The most interesting part of this to me is extending the grant of rights to 2046. You know what that means? That means no Super League. That means we're not breaking apart for the next 20 years and off to do
but
our
couldn't
own
you
thing
add members though?
I don't. Like Florida State, Clemson, I don't know. Like I don't know they wouldn't need to add them though because of those reasons. Like we don't know if the Big Ten or the SEC would add Florida State or Clemson. They don't really need to. North Carolina is a little bit different.
Chris,
but that's still about 5 years away.
When's the last time the conference was doing it? The SEC didn't need to add Texas and Oklahoma. They wanted to add Texas and Oklahoma and sort of upset the apple cart on an entire sport.
But I'm saying is like,
conferences
those moves
to do things because they need to do them. They're going
to. But those moves like line up with certain dates on the TV deal, on the grant of rights. They don't often happen in the middle of them. And so if this is out to 2046, I don't know what that means in terms of like the inability to bring, like, are they going to suddenly be part of Big Ten enterprises? How, like, that's why it's a little bit different. It would generally, though, it means your Michigans and your Ohio States and your USCs are not leaving the bottom of the Big Ten behind to join the top SEC teams and create a 40-team league. Like that's the kind of thing that I'm talking about. And so,
I think that's the bill. If this was that great of an idea, though, Chris, you'd be out more in front. Like
that's what I'm saying. They're not out in front of anything. And so it just, when you have how many members? 18 schools, 16 of them are on board for this thing. And yet all we're hearing is how bad it is because the only people talking are the people who don't like it. And that's what I mean by the Big Ten being absolutely horrible at getting on the same page, setting a narrative, making a case. Tony Petit is not out there like explaining why this is good. Instead, it's the only thing we're hearing from is from the people that are against it. And so when you have the Big Ten trying to do these things like quietly, it feels shady. It feels like backroom deals. It feels secretive. Suddenly the public turns against it. I don't know if this is good or bad. I just know the Big Ten has been horrible at selling it and selling why this matters and why this is a good idea. So we will see on that front, but wanted to kind of touch on what that was. Also, I don't think the Big Ten is going to go forward with this if they don't have Michigan and USC. There's like this like veiled threat of like, maybe we don't involve you in certain things in the future. It's like, come on, you're not leaving Michigan and USC on whatever you want to do. So there's that. Down in LSU in Baton Rouge, the Brian Kelly firing has taken a weird twist where maybe he's not actually fired, sort of. So a week ago or so,
I got an email in my inbox that says he is. So I don't know, Chris.
A week ago, Brian Kelly was publicly fired, and the AD Scott Woodward said it was because they're not good on the football field. A couple days later, Woodward himself was fired. Now Brian Kelly has sued LSU because he states in a lawsuit that we obtained that LSU, after firing him, or as part of firing him, offered him a $25 million upfront lump sum settlement, then upped it to $30 million instead of his $53 million buyout. And I'll explain the difference in a moment. He said no, but he's open to other offers, and he would like in writing that LSU is going to abide by his buyout. Then LSU tells him, actually, we haven't fired you. We may actually be able to fire you for cause and negate the whole buyout. And also, Scott Woodward didn't have authority to offer you those settlements. So nobody I've talked to thinks this is going to work at all. And
So you're saying that
Yep.
if they tell him they're firing him because they hate him, it's not good enough?
so, and this comes back to the buyout. And you might be saying, why would Brian Kelly take less? Well, he's not necessarily taking less. The buyout is like $53-ish million paid
But it
through
has
the end of
mitigation.
through the end of the year. But it has a duty to mitigate, meaning Brian Kelly has to actively try to find employment of equal qualification, is what the contract says. And whatever he makes from that, dollar for dollar, is cut out from what he makes from LSU. So if he takes another job and he makes $5 million a year, that's $5 million a year less off the buyout. So LSU, that's how a lot of buyouts work. Not all of them. Jimbo Fisher didn't have that. Ed Orgeron didn't have that. But Brian
You
Kelly
see it
does
more in
have that.
coordinator contracts, I think.
He can't. Well, you see it in most head coach contracts. Like Brian
Yeah.
Kelly can't just go sit on the beach and get paid $53 million like Jimbo Fisher could. He has to actively try to do this. And so you offer someone a lump sum payment up front that if they want to coach again, it can ultimately help them make more money in the long run and take future money off the books for the school. It's a lot of times both sides. It's a benefit for both sides. LSU, Les Miles was fired. A couple years later, he decided to take a lump sum of instead of the full remaining because he wanted to go coach at Kansas. And so it helps everybody involved. So it's not why would LSU offer him less? That's not how it works. We don't know what his future job or salary is going to be, so it's hard to say. But that's the purpose of a settlement offer. But Brian Kelly rejected $30 million. I don't know. I feel like I would take that. But that is a weird situation. We will continue to monitor. Just when you thought LSU had kind of gotten things under control.
Do you think
They have
this
not.
will affect the coaching search, though, Chris?
No, not this. No, they've got an AD. They've got a president. They're going forward on that. The Brian Kelly stuff will just be background drama, which happens a lot of times. I mean, like Michigan State's still dealing with a Mel Tucker lawsuit. By the way, this history of trying to fire coaches for cause is very shaky. Kansas tried it with
It worked
David
for
Beatty.
Tennessee, as far as I understand it, though.
Yeah, well, hold on. Kansas tried this with David Beatty in like 2018. They fired him.
Mm-hmm.
And then like later we're like, actually it's for cause because we think you committed NCAA violations.
And it was for the record. I've done research into this. The reason that they were firing him for cause was that they had analysts watching practice and interacting with players. That was the violation that they were angry about. And then UConn basketball tried to do this with Kevin Ollie a couple years later, I believe.
Those didn't work. They settled for pretty close to the full amount. Pat Fitzgerald was fired for cause over the hazing thing after he'd been suspended.
I mean, that's not.
It's
that's
a little bit different.
Though.
It is a little bit different. You could have fired him for cause and paid out his buyout, and it wouldn't have been a thing. But because they fired him for cause, he sued. We don't know what he got, but he seemed
But the idea, like Pat Fitzgerald was obviously not fired for on the field issues. Like Brian Kelly, Jeremy Pruitt, David Beatty, they were fired because it wasn't good enough on the field, and the school tried to sort of backdoor. Well, let's find some cause.
Tennessee did it in the proper order, which was we're going to investigate ourselves for NCAA violations. We found some, and we're going to use this to fire Jeremy Pruitt for cause.
And it has worked. Like I've had a lot of conversations with Jeremy Pruitt's lawyer, who was threatening a lawsuit for a long time and then just never actually filed it.
Correct.
And
he never did.
As far as I understand it now, Jeremy Pruitt has gotten $0 from Tennessee. Now, logistically, I think that's a little bit garbage because if Tennessee's 9-3 instead of 3-9, that investigation never happens. But he did commit violations. You did violate your contract. So, like, if we're having a real talk, it's garbage. But if we're having legal talk, I can see how they got out of it.
And he did sue the NCAA earlier this year in Alabama court for $100 million, saying he was a sacrificial lamb. That no major updates on that yet. Michigan State fired Mel Tucker for cause over the Brenda Tracy thing. He sued for wrongful termination. That remains. There's been really no updates on that in several months. So sometimes for cause works, sometimes it doesn't. I do think announcing that you fired Brian Kelly because of on-field results, you can't after the fact say that wasn't the reason. And that's why they have to say, actually, we didn't fire you. That's where this weird whole thing comes from. I mean, you could make the case, like, really what you should make the case is poor play on the field should be a reason to fire somebody for cause. Like you're not doing your
But our
good
coach
enough
is
job.
never going to sign that
No,
contract.
it's never right. That's never going to happen. But
Yeah.
like, like we have contracts, and like technically we can be fired for poor performance, but a set of steps and stuff needs to happen first. So it's complicated. It's weird. We'll see what happens there with LSU. All right. I've got a take. We've had some good takes the last couple of weeks, and now I got a take I want to talk about here. So for that, we're going to go into the heat check. Throw them in the garbage. What happened to helmet stickers? I feel like 10 to 15 years ago, like everybody brought them back. And now we're back to it just being like Ohio State and Florida State and like maybe a couple of other schools. I don't know what's happened. I love helmet stickers. They're incredibly college football. I love how everybody kind of has their own unique ones, and it's fun to see what they are. And when you see somebody with a ton of them, like signifies that they're a really good player.
Yeah.
I love helmet stickers, and nobody's doing this anymore. What's up with that?
I'm with you on this. And I think also helmet stickers are a thing that, okay, obviously you make a big play. Maybe you could do it on the sideline, but helmet stickers can be handed out on film grade. I always feel bad for offensive linemen and sometimes defensive linemen too, that like the stats are going to lie for them. And you don't really know. Like if you look at a box score, you have no idea how good an offensive lineman actually played. I don't trust PFF grades. I like their data.
No.
I think their grades are complete nonsense. But like if you had an offensive lineman, like you said, Chris, that had a bunch of helmet stickers, you can say, oh, like he must have graded out incredibly high, had 6 pancakes last week in the run game, reset and saved a sack, did a good job on a help, something like that. I like that idea. I'm with you. I'd like to see more. And there are so many options for helmet stickers. And also, for those of us who don't want to bring back the turnover chain, that could be your sideline thing. Is maybe you don't like the garish like props, which are awesome and universally great. But if a guy obviously produces a turnover, he gets a helmet sticker of some kind. I'm sitting here watching Northern Illinois. I don't know why you can't just have a husky paw slapped on the side of your helmet when you make a good play.
Yeah, like I feel like Michigan had them under Jim Harbaugh. If I have that right in my head, maybe it was Brady Hoke, but I thought Harbaugh had them. And I'm like looking up pictures of Bryce Underwood, and okay, he's got a couple. There's a couple on this picture of Bryce Underwood, but like it's like 10 of them. I don't know, man. We're in mid-November. I feel like he's played better than 10 helmet stickers. So like maybe the standards for helmet stickers have just gotten too high. I don't know, but I love over the course of a season, Ohio State players like the helmets change like throughout the year because the Buckeye sticker is part of the helmet. When you think of Ohio State, you don't think of the plain silver helmet. You think of it with the stickers. I just think it's a great branding opportunity. I've actually
do look like weed leaves, if we're being honest.
I've never covered a game at Ohio State. Actually, I've been to a couple. I've never covered one. I want
strong place to cover.
Surely you can go buy a helmet sticker in the bookstore, right? I feel like if I'm ever up in Columbus,
I should have gone when I went to Ohio State. Like Ohio State is not like Notre Dame, where I made a point to go to the bookstore at Notre Dame. Ohio State, they just didn't have as many like things, so I didn't make a point of like exploring their campus as much. And also, it was freezing cold the whole time that I was in Columbus. Like I got in there on Friday. I made a point like Friday night, like I wanted to watch Notre Dame, Indiana, and then Saturday there's games during the day. So like, I met up with Andy and Ari and we watched the early games and so I didn't get a chance to really explore Columbus. I don't think so, but there should be. I didn't see any, but
yeah, I just remembered as we're talking about this, we had helmet stickers in youth hockey when I was a kid, like might level, like might and squirt level. Every goal and assist you got, you'd get a sticker that said goal or assist, and you'd peel them off and you'd put them on your helmet. So it was like every goal you scored as a little kid, you got a little sticker, and then after the season, you take them off and you like put them on a piece of paper and like count them all up and stuff like that. So I don't know.
Can I quick hockey take, Chris?
Oh boy,
2 assists on a goal.
David,
garbage.
Name 3 active hockey players.
Okay, so when PK Subban retired, that put me in a big hole. Sidney Crosby still plays. I believe.
He does. Yep.
Jordan Bennington, the goalie.
Yes, he's still
And then,
there.
Ovechkin retired. Is that correct? Or is he still
He
playing?
did not. He's still playing.
Okay. He's still
He
playing.
just
So
got
that's 3.
he just got his
Let's-
900th goal. 2 of those guys have played for like 20 years, but yes, you did name 3 hockey
Okay.
plays. What's
There
your
you
take on
go.
hockey?
Yeah, but the 2 assists on a goal is garbage. I don't know why we do this. Why is that a thing? Why is that allowed? We don't have 2 assists in basketball. We don't have 2 assists in soccer. It's garbage.
I don't know the history of that. It's kind of like if you throw a pass and lateral it to somebody, a hook and ladder, like the guy who makes the lateral doesn't get credit for the catch, I don't think. Only one of those guys gets all the yards.
It's participation trophy culture, Chris. That's what this is. Hockey,
right.
soft. We've always said this.
Speaking of participating, it's time to get into our game previews.
This is for all the Tostitos.
Thank you, Brent. Last week, David went 6-1. I went 4-3.
What was my? I forget. Oh, it was. Was it Utah?
It was Indiana, I think.
Oh yeah, it was Indiana. I had Indiana -14. Yeah.
We all picked Indiana because we said last week we're picking Indiana until they don't cover. And whoops,
there we go. They were wasn't it 17-0 at one point? Like they were.
It was 20-10 in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, that game was not really on my radar until Penn State scored, and then once it was like Penn State was down 3, I switched it on my main screen. So
I'm just noticing now as we're recording this Miami of Ohio game. Have you seen they're wearing Cradle of Coaches jerseys? They're black
like that at all.
They're black jerseys with red shoulder stripes, but everything is outlined in gold. And in the middle, at the top, at the bottom of the collar of the jersey, there's a Cradle of Coaches logo on there. I don't know. They got a heck of a Cradle of Coaches. John Harbaugh, Bo Schembechler, Sean McVay, maybe?
Yeah, that Cradle's been pretty dry for a while. The MAC in general has not been producing big-time coaches for some time.
On the season, David is 57-44-2. Looking good there. I am 50-51-2, hovering right around 500. I'm still within striking range of you, but we get to a point where I'm going to start needing to pick a games opposite of you just because I need to make up ground. We're not there yet, but we may get to that point. The loser of this, by the way, if you don't remember, the loser has to order Uber Eats from one restaurant to another restaurant. If we are both at AFCA convention in January together, we'll try to do this and videotape it or something.
Yeah, I'll definitely be there. I don't know if you'll be there yet. So,
all right. First game, we go to Pittsburgh, number 9 Notre Dame at number 22 Pitt, noon Eastern ABC. Notably this week, Pitt head coach Pat Narduzzi was asked if this is a must-win. College game days in town. Pitt's a top 25 team, making a playoff push. Is this a must win? I don't understand why that's a question that is asked, but turns
that's
out
a weird. That was one of my takes of this situation. Is like I'm trying to imagine a situation when I ask a coach that, mostly because you probably know what the answer is most of the time.
Well, you probably didn't expect the answer that we got. Pat Narduzzi says, absolutely not. It's not an ACC game. Glad you brought that up. I'd gladly get beat 110-10 in that game. They can put 100 up on us as long as we win the next 2. Again, our focus is on Notre Dame and getting as many wins as we can. I don't know if it is, Pat. And so he's not. Here's the thing. He's not wrong, because Pitt's only path to the playoff is winning the ACC. And to do that, you got to win your last 2 games. They're currently tied for first with a bunch of teams. You win both those games, like I got to imagine like 99% chance you're in the ACC championship game. You have to win that to get there. Win or lose or Notre Dame, it doesn't matter, because if they win these 3 games, they have Notre Dame, Georgia Tech, and Miami to close the year. The crux of college football playoff chaos revolves around Pitt right now. And that means something crazy is going to happen. But if they beat Notre Dame, Georgia Tech, and Miami, go to the ACC championship game and lose. Well, first off, if they win those games, not sure how high they'd be. Probably get close, maybe to number 10 or so. But if you lose that game, a third loss, does that knock you out of the field? Potentially. As I've kind of thought, I've gone back and forth on if Narduzzi was right or not, because I feel like a Pitt that is 10-2 and 8-0 with Mason Heinzel doesn't necessarily get knocked out if they lose an ACC championship game. I don't know. The thing is, they might be jumped by whoever wins the ACC championship, like at that point. So it's very likely Pitt, the ACC gets a one big lead. But this is crazy for Pat Narduzzi to say this out loud. It's really an indictment of the playoff system, frankly.
I mean, yes and no. I'm curious how it's received in the locker room, but to the game itself, this is one of those, Chris, where like people been talking about this game for like 2 and 3 weeks of like, oh, you better watch out. Like Notre Dame on upset alert. Like, uh-oh.
By the way, like Notre Dame, Notre Dame, a 12.5-point favorite.
Yes, and it feels like anytime that conversation is like extended in a long way, especially in like Notre Dame, where they've had kind of a weird schedule where like they could probably get up for Pitt. There's like no such thing as like a trap game in this situation. I feel like this is going to be a Notre Dame flex. I feel like we have a Heinzel bad day. Marcus Freeman has the freshman's head spinning, and Notre Dame wins this thing like 34-13, something like that. Like not that competitive.
So Mason Heinzel, the freshman quarterback, I think true freshman, who took over when Eli Holsting was benched. Heinzel has come in, 250 passing yards per game, 64% completions, 13 touchdowns overall, 5 interceptions. Playing very, very good. Hasn't really had a bad game.
Mm-hmm.
He hasn't played the best of competition. I think it's like NC State, Stanford. He did beat Florida State.
I mean, what is the best of competition in the ACC, Chris?
Well, that's the point. This is obviously by far going to be the best team in defense that he plays. Also, do you know who has the number 1 rush defense in America in terms of yards per carry allowed?
Is it Notre Dame?
That would be the Pittsburgh Panthers.
Okay.
And that is a number 1 rush defense against Jeremiah Love. And I don't know, like, I agree with you that in these situations when we think Notre Dame may be on upset alert, they're not. They really have been rolling for weeks other than one weird game against Boston College where they were never really in danger. They just missed a ton of field goals. Pitt, freshman quarterback, is it too much? Like, I don't know. Like 12.5 is a lot. Jeremiah Love, if he has a big game against by the way, this is the Jeremiah Love Heisman moment game, so to speak. Like if you want, like if he's going to get in the conversation, this is the game to do it. You have College game day in town, last top 25 matchup of the year for them. Love has had a great year, but he didn't play great in those first 2 games. So he's kind of out of sight, out of mind for a while. He's been lights out ever since. If you have a big game here against Pitt, that gets you into the conversation the same way Fernando Mendoza had with his moment against Penn State. I'm going to go Notre Dame to cover. I'm with you, but I may look at the numbers a bit more before I officially lock it in our picks. It's a bit of a cop-out, but...
That's all right. I'm going Notre Dame. Texas, Georgia, Chris. Let's get to it.
Number 10, Texas at number 5, Georgia, 7:30 Eastern, ABC. Georgia's a 5.5-point favorite. Texas, very much in the college football playoff picture somehow. They are very up and down. I think the team we saw against Vanderbilt was very good. Georgia's coming off maybe its best performance of the year as well, handling Mississippi State, running the ball like crazy. I also went to Texas, Georgia last year, and I know it's not exactly the same team, but Georgia has destroyed Texas in the trenches both times they played last year.
Yep.
I'm going to go Georgia. I think it could be a pretty high scoring game actually, but I'm going to go Georgia to win and cover.
It's not going to be a high scoring game. Chris, let me read you some stat lines. 17 of 30 for 170 yards, touchdown and a pick. 16 of 29 for 263, 2 touchdowns and 2 picks.
Are we going game by game on Arch Manning's numbers?
12 for 27 for 132
But what about the
yards.
But what about the last 4? The last 4 have been pretty good.
Hang on. And then 29 of 46 for 346 and 3 touchdowns. That is Arch Manning on the road this year.
Oh.
He has not been good. It has been really bad. And you can say what you want about Mississippi State. Obviously, the best stat line. They were down 17 points in the fourth quarter in that game, in large part because the offense could not get going. I don't know how many of those yards were in the fourth quarter. I bet a lot of them were.
One of those was a punt return touchdown too.
Yes, and those opponents, obviously at Ohio State, the first one, but at Florida, at Kentucky, at Mississippi State. Not exactly the 85 Bears, any of those teams. Florida, very good defense.
Well, Ohio State is, but yeah.
Sure. Not good. Georgia rolls.
I think so too. I remember when Arch came into that game last year in Austin and was immediately very, very overwhelmed.
That was the very first time I saw Arch, and I was like, ugh, uh-oh. Like,
yeah, and
he looked scared, and the mechanics were bad, the accuracy was bad, and it was like, for all the people that you wouldn't think that the moment was too big, it looked like it was really big for him. And I was like, oh man, that is not what you want to see.
I do think it's interesting. Both these teams are not as good in the trenches as they were last year, including Georgia's D-line and Texas's O-line. But at home, Georgia, night game, Georgia wins. Texas, I don't know if it fully knocks you out of the playoff, because if you beat Texas A&M to close the year, that's a big one.
It's going to be Texas and Oklahoma that are sitting there jockeying for position at the front of the line if a 9-3 team gets in. So Texas might be the only team that can go 9-3 in the regular season and make it, I think, because Oklahoma's schedule is not what it was, who we will get to right now. Number 11, Oklahoma, at number 4, Alabama. 3:30 Eastern ABC, Alabama, also a 5.5-point favorite. This game I find way more interesting because Oklahoma is coming off some of its best performances of the year. I think both these teams might be coming off a bye. And Alabama, I didn't realize till I looked this up. Like, I knew Alabama had struggled to run the ball this year. In yards per carry, they are 120th nationally. Now that includes sacks, but they're around teams like UTEP, Middle Tennessee State, Wisconsin, Ball State. Those are the teams that are around them on the list where Alabama is in yards per carry. They have not gone over 3.8 yards per carry on the ground against a Power 4 team. Meanwhile, Oklahoma's defense, number 4 in the country in rush defense. And we know that's legit because we've seen who they've played and who they've shut down, which is almost everybody except Trinidad Chambliss and Lacey. I think Lacey had a good game in that one for Ole Miss. What do you think about this? So you say that, and I think that's true, but they can't run the ball. Their defense right now ranks 41st in yards per play. Yet here they are. Alabama's, that is.
Okay.
And yet here they are, sitting here in the top 5, look as good as anybody in the SEC. And this is why Ty Simpson is higher on my Heisman ballot right now than Julian Sane is, because he's playing at an extremely high level and he's carrying them. The defense it's, I would say, poor by Alabama standards, but like it's an okay defense. The running game has been really bad. They have good receivers, but Ryan Williams has not been quite like what the hype beast tells you he is. Like Lottie Brooks has been kind of in and out. Jeremy Bernard he's been like one of their most solid guys.
Ryan Williams.
So that's why I don't think it matters. Go ahead.
Great catch against, I forgot, Alabama did play last week. It was LSU. And Ryan Williams made a great catch in the end zone on a great throw by Ty Simpson that we talked about too. So, yeah, I mean, like, I think it doesn't matter. I think
Ty Simpson is good enough to win this game. And also, Oklahoma, the Tennessee win, a little bit of fool's gold. A little bit.
Well, sort of. The first half, they were hanging on by the seat of their pants. They had less than 100 yards of offense. And they needed a scoop and score by R. Mason Thomas, who got hurt on the play, to stay within striking distance. Then they had a good second half. I don't think Texas can beat Georgia. I think Oklahoma can beat Alabama if certain things go the right way. They beat Alabama last year, too, with Jackson Arnold. So like it's not.
Yeah, it's with Jalen Milroe. And he threw a pick. Like did he throw 2 pick sixes in that game?
I think that sounds right. I think there might have been.
I believe he did. It was definitely at least 1. It might have been 2.
I am curious about the John Mateer run game because Jackson Arnold had a big game on the ground in that one a year ago in Norman. You're going to Alabama?
Oh yeah.
I'm going to Alabama because it's at home and because it's a good team, and I trust Alabama the most when they are playing good teams. They get up
Yeah.
for those games. Kalen DeBoer loses the games he shouldn't lose. He wins the games that are close. I'm going to go Alabama as well. TCU at number 12, BYU, 10:15 Eastern, ESPN. This will be the game we'll be watching during Bunch Formation After Dark, which will go live at the end of the night games. BYU's got to win out to have a shot at the CFP. And you got a TCU team in here that is very up and down. Like TCU can beat you, or they can drop a real egg. Blew the game against Iowa State last week. I'm going to go BYU. I think they bounce back. And I don't love Sonny Dykes teams in November when they seem to always kind of fade. TCU not having the season it wanted to. I'm going to go BYU.
Can they play for like a Mountain West title trophy in this game? I'd like to see that.
Were they ever in the league at the same time? I don't know.
Yeah.
They might have come in when BYU
didn't leave till
left,
2010. BYU didn't leave till 2010, and TCU was
Really?
in the
Okay.
league. Yeah.
Oh, I think they might have been in the WAC together too.
Yeah, probably so. I have no feel for this game at all. Like TCU, you watch them, and you're like, that's a pretty good team. And then the weeks you don't watch them, like I didn't see a ton of the Iowa State game last week, and you're kind of like, what are y'all doing? Like they're a really hard team to figure.
Mm-hmm.
And then BYU is just tough. They really know how to use Bear Bachmeier really well. Like I've been impressed with them all season and how they have managed that, and also that he has been allowed to kind of grow up gradually. So I'm gonna take BYU here just because I trust them a little bit more. Lavelle Edwards Stadium, tough place to play, especially at night. The Cougar tails will be flowing. So give me the Cougs.
This is random, but I just had a thought going back to our sports bar conversation. Whatever you think of him, you know how Dave Portnoy has the pizza rating thing?
Mm-hmm.
You know, he takes a bite of a slice of pizza and he rates it. You and I should do that for sports bars. We should walk into a sports bar at any given time, like a health inspector, evaluate the TV setup, and rate it.
What I really should start doing is one bite donut reviews. I feel like I'd be killing it if I could do one bite donut reviews. I have listen, if you want to judge a donut shop, you judge it by the purity of just how's your glaze? Can your straight up glazed donut get the job done? Not at all a novelty donut guy. And
you love glazing?
Yeah. And the Sugar Queen Donutry in Knoxville, Tennessee, they started out as like an Amish food truck, and they recently opened up a brick and mortar store. I got some again. Finally, they were at Dollywood for a little while, but I got some when we were back there, and they were hitting. Man, that's about as good of a donut as I will say. Chris, do you know what the GOAT donut I've ever had in my life is?
We are so far off topic now, but no, how would I know what the best donut you ever had was?
It is Round Rock Donuts in obviously Round Rock, Texas. They're unbelievable, Chris. The next time you go to Austin, you've got to stop and go get one.
I am going to Austin in 2 weeks.
Round Rock Donuts, Chris.
I am staying.
It was
just
an
north
issue
of
for
Round
me
Rock.
because I did want to stop at the Czech stop in West Texas, but you can't stop at the Czech stop on the way to Austin and then also stop at Round Rock. That's just a lot of carbs for one road trip. But generally, I tried to do one on the way down and one on the way back. But
I will try.
I think about the Round Rock Donuts too much.
I'm staying north of Round Rock, so I'll try to get on the way down. Text me again what it is, what it's called, and I'll try to get that
Round Rock Donuts
on Black Friday. All right, back to the games. Round Rock Donuts, if you want to sponsor us, punchformationpod@gmail.com.
I've never had a Cougar Tail. I like Maple Long Johns. I'm skeptical that the Cougar Tail could be as good as people say it is, but maybe that's just me.
There you go. Bring it back to football. All right. Number 21, Iowa at number 17, USC, 3:30 Eastern, Big Ten Network. Interesting matchup of brands, I guess you would say. You know, USC, the Flash, Iowa, very much not the Flash. I was coming off a close loss against Oregon in a downpour. This game, by the way, 3:30 Eastern, Big Ten Network, USC a 6.5-point favorite. And so given the time of year, given what Iowa was doing last week, made sure to look up what the weather is in Los Angeles at 3:30.
It's supposed to be rainy this weekend, right? One of the 10 days a year it rains out there.
It is currently forecast for, on the Google weather, I don't know if the time they're showing me is the local time or my current time, but assuming it's the local time, the kickoff would be 12:30. At that time, 70% chance of rain and thunderstorms. This is going to be very much an Iowa type of weather game. However, USC runs the ball very well, and Iowa just allowed 7 yards per carry against Oregon at home. I'm going to go USC here because I do think they're a tough team in a way that people haven't thought they were. I think they can run the ball well. I think they're at home. Iowa on the road, you're never really sure what you're going to get. The defense on the road has been a bit shaky. I'm going to say USC wins and covers 6.5.
If USC can hold the line here and win this game, I'll come away impressed because this Iowa team, it is kind of like a gut check team. Like they're not great, but you watch them and you're just like, ugh, I don't want to play that team. Like I really don't want to play that team. It's like they get Gronowski coming downhill, like they hit hard. They're so disciplined as the Iowa defenses always are. And I think it tests teams in really interesting ways. So I'm going to reluctantly take Iowa to cover. I think they can ugly this up, but I think USC wins and like stays alive in this playoff discussion.
You know, Oregon should have covered against Iowa, even without it was missing its top receivers, and yet they got into the red zone like 8 times and could only score 1 touchdown. I think USC, you got to win this game to keep your playoff hopes alive, and they very much do still have playoff hopes as well. 2 other teams that do as well. Number 19, Virginia at Duke, 3:30 Eastern, ESPN2. Duke, a 5.5-point favorite. It's kind of gone back and forth at the moment as to whether or not Chandler Morris is going to play. I imagine that plays a pretty big spot in where that line is. What do you think?
Did not like the Virginia backup at all. It seemed like they couldn't do anything last week once he left. I mean, I think it's pretty simple. If Chandler Morris plays, I'm going to take Virginia to win this game, probably outright. If he doesn't play, Duke wins it, probably by double digits. I think it's that big of an issue.
Duke's weird. They have 1 conference loss, but they have also lost to UConn, Illinois, and Tulane. So they've been a very, very, very inconsistent team, but they are at home for this one. The loss to Tulane was on the road. The loss to UConn was on the road. Mensa's numbers are really, really good, and it feels like Virginia's just been waiting to get got. If Chandler Morris plays, I'm picking Virginia. If he doesn't, I'm taking Duke. I don't feel great about it. I don't feel great about the fact that I'm only picking favorites so far in this, but we haven't had
I thought about that too. I did my picks earlier today, and I was like, that's a lot of favorites. But I mean, some of that is just like, I mean, there's been some weeks where I've been like, taking like all but one dog. I think it is what it is. I'm good with it.
NC State at number 15, Miami, 3:30 Eastern, ESPN. Miami, a 14.5-point favorite. I don't know what the first half I don't know what the first half line is, but I feel like I would take NC State. Miami has had some brutal first halves the last several weeks. NC State is like, they beat Georgia Tech, CJ Bailey, like they could have a big game, but they can also have some real clunkers. You don't really know ever which NC State is going to show up. What do you think?
Careful, Miami. Careful. I like this NC State team. Like you said, I think CJ Bailey, one of the more underrated players in the country, just a really good player. And like Miami just never felt threatened last week because I think they knew Syracuse was never going to be able to score the points. But Miami's offense, like they can't run the ball either. And like their offense gets in some really, really bad funks from time to time. I'm definitely taking NC State the points here. I would sprinkle a little bit on that NC State money. I don't know what it is. I'm sure it's in the 300-400 range, but like there's a real shot for NC State to win this game.
It feels like a game I could see NC State winning at halftime and losing by like 21. Like when Miami turns it on, they can turn it on. They've had some really good second halves, but
it feels like Miami only turns it on against like garbage teams.
Yeah. They're at home. I'm going to go NC State as well. 14.5's a lot. Give me the extra half point too. 2 touchdown win. I will take NC State to cover that. All right, we're going to go to American Corner, presented by Soar the Eagle. one-loss teams here in this conference. You have 5 of them. One loss in conference play. USF, Navy, Tulane, North Texas, East Carolina. They are all the ones competing for a spot in the American Championship game. First game here, number 24 USF at Navy, noon Eastern, ESPN2. USF is a 9.5 point favorite. I am going to go with the Bulls here. They are top 20 nationally in yards per carry allowed. They got a pretty good rush defense. We also don't know the status of Blake Horvath, the quarterback, the do-everything quarterback for Navy.
I think he's going to play. It felt like last week was like a low-key load management thing.
Dude, everybody around that game was around the broadcast of that game. You could even hear it during the game. Like, they had no idea that Blake Horvath may not play, and they were kind of mad about it. Some people, our friends, were theorizing, did Navy just not play Horvath just to save him for the conference game?
It makes sense to me. Well, I mean, you're probably not going to beat that Notre Dame team. So what's the point if you're still chasing a playoff spot and you still have the Army game looming? I'm not saying they did it, but if they did, I wouldn't blame them.
Yeah, I we'll see on Horvath. He's really good. USF feels like they're locked in. Other than one fourth quarter against Memphis, they have been rolling for a while. If Horvath doesn't play, I imagine the line changes a bit. But even if Horvath plays, I like USF 9.5.
Yeah, this feels like it could be a shootout. But USF just has more ammo here. I think ultimately this could be a game that's like 21-21 midway through the second quarter. But then USF keeps scoring and Navy does not. So I'm going to take USF reluctantly. I don't love it.
Memphis at East Carolina. East Carolina actually a 2.5 point favorite. And you and I both have been at ECU games this year. You were at the NC State game week 1. I was at the Tulane game. I've been impressed with this team. Like, they've got some dudes on that team, some pretty good receivers. They play hard. Does Memphis bounce back from the loss to Tulane? What do you think?
So East Carolina's kind of been the redheaded stepchild of that one-loss quintet on top of the American standings. Like, nobody's talking about them. Nobody's discussing them.
It's probably because their playoff hopes are basically nothing. Like, JMU would get in over them if they won the conference.
Yeah. And so that'll be interesting. We'll see. This is a game where you can kind of flip that narrative a little bit. You know, if you start racking up wins against Memphis, you beat USF in the title game. I'm not sure that that's true. I think they would get in over JMU. But this is sort of a proving game. I'm going to go with Memphis to win this game outright because I just don't believe in this ECU team. But they can shut some people up this weekend. I do sort of believe in Memphis.
I think I'll go with ECU. Like, they've been playing really well, especially at home. They beat Army easily. On the road, they blew out Tulane Temple a couple weeks ago. Nearly beat Tulane on the road. I'm gonna go with ECU. I'm really surprised they're a favorite, and I feel like that makes people think you got to pick Memphis. But I'm gonna go ECU. FAU at Tulane, 3 p.m. Eastern, ESPN Plus. Tulane a 17.5 point favorite at home. This is interesting because FAU has the number 1 passing offense in the country because they throw the ball 46 times per game in Zach Kitley's offense. Air raid guy, former OC at Western Kentucky. He was the OC when Bailey Zappi had his record-breaking year. But FAU also, by the way, Tulane's pass defense 116th in yards per attempt allowed. You saw Owen McCown. You saw Owen McCown at UTSA tear him apart. However, FAU quarterback Caden Veltkamp may miss this game. He got hurt last week. But FAU's been feisty. And 17.5 is a lot for a Tulane team that has not been playing consistently for a while. If Veltkamp plays, I will take FAU to cover. If he doesn't, I'm not counting any of this.
Yeah, I'm with you as well. It's too many points. I don't fully trust Tulane. This is another one where I might sprinkle a little bit of the money line if you're going Florida Atlantic. But yeah, too many points. I think they can just score enough. Maybe it's a backdoor late, but I think they keep this closer than that.
But all three of those American Conference games, fascinating. Those are the 5 one-loss teams right there. All of them are competing for the conference championship.
Yeah.
At least 3 of them, probably 3 of them, for a playoff spot as well. So those are big. Other games around the country: Arizona at number 25, Cincinnati, noon Eastern, FS1. Cincinnati Bearcats are tied with BYU, second place in the Big 12. They play BYU next week. That could be winner of that game, potentially goes to the Big 12 championship.
Is Cincinnati carrying the belt real quick for the best team that nobody thinks is actually good? Like Illinois won that title last year. I feel like Cincinnati is that team this year that nobody talks about them, but you watch them and you're like, that's a good team.
Other than when they're playing. I mean, they got destroyed by Utah, but like you look at the box score and it's kind of hard to explain how. Because it is interesting. Arizona going to a bowl game under Brent Brennan. They've had a much better year 2 under him. But going kind of across the country to Cincinnati at home, only 6.5. I'll take Cincinnati.
Yeah, I'm taking Cincinnati.
Clemson at number 20, Louisville. 7:30 Eastern Friday. This Friday game, ESPN. Louisville, a 2.5 point favorite. Clemson very up and down, coming off of the confident win against Florida State. I don't know why I'm always picking these favorites, but if there's a team Clemson often has trouble with, it's Louisville. And it's on the road. They lost here. They lost to Louisville last year, maybe, or a couple of years ago. Some missed field goals, blocked field. What was that year when Clemson had a bunch of field goals blocked? Might have been.
Was that the Pitt game a couple of years back?
Not sure, but I'm gonna. Does Louisville bounce back from the loss? I'll say they do and win at home. Another favorite, but it's only 2.5.
I am gonna go against my better judgment and purchase a small amount of Clemson stock here.
Yeah,
I'll go with the Tigers to win. I think talent can win out here. Clemson looks like it's Florida State, so it's hard to know exactly what that is, but they looked pretty good last week. I think they might be figuring some stuff out. I'm going to take Clemson, and I'm going to hate it, but give me Clemson outright.
By the way, Duke, who went to Clemson and won, and Darian Mensah had an amazing game, and they scored 40-something points. That Duke team then lost to UConn. Like, that's why there's so many of these teams you just cannot get a read on, and you just don't know what they're going to be week to week. So we'll see. Out in the Mountain West, Boise State at San Diego State, 10:30 Eastern, CBS Sports Network. This game is on here because both of these teams are tied atop the Mountain West standings at 4-1. So the winner of this game is in a really good spot to make the conference title game. Loser will be back with a couple of other 2-loss teams. Notably, Boise State quarterback Maddox Madsen is out with a lower leg injury. San Diego State is coming off the pretty lopsided loss at Hawaii. What's your pick?
I am going to go with San Diego State to bounce back. These two teams have been kind of tough to figure all year. I haven't really been bought into San Diego State, and then I did, and they got waxed, but I think we get a bounce back from them this year or this week.
San Diego State is exactly who Miami of Ohio looks like with these jerseys on the TV right now. That's what it is. It's the gold, red, and black. That's San Diego State colors. I'm going to go San Diego State to win a cover as well. I don't know what Boise is without Maddox Madsen. They've been inconsistent on the road. I'll take San Diego State. I think they bounce back. And the Hawaii game can be kind of weird. All right, now we're going to move into hot seat watch teams, games that involve teams that maybe fire their coach this weekend or soon, depending on what happens. First off, number 13, Utah at Baylor, 7 p.m. Eastern, ESPN2. Utah, an 8.5 point favorite. Baylor coach Dave Aranda on the hot seat a bit. Some prominent alumni have said it's time for a change, but Baylor still kicking around for bowl eligibility at the moment. What do you think? Sawyer Robertson can light it up, throw it around like crazy. What do you think?
So I think that if you are the highest paid person on a campus and you get asked about your AD, I don't know what you want to use. I don't know if harassing is the right word, but just like getting after one of your players, and your answer is that that's above my pay grade. I don't think a coach can say that. Maybe that's whatever you think. Whether you believe that you don't want to challenge your AD or go to bat for your guy publicly,
For
it is what
people
it is.
for people who don't
Go
know what
ahead.
you're talking about, we and others reported last week that Baylor AD Mac Rhodes, the same guy who's the CFP chair, had a bit of a confrontation a number of weeks ago with tight end Michael Trigg, and then with some kind of coaches as well after the game. Weird situation on the sideline around the Arizona State game. The school investigated Rhodes and said they, I guess, cleared him or something, but it was just a weird him getting involved in what Michael Trigg was wearing as his undershirt. He was wearing gold, everybody else had black. Just a weird situation. I understand why a coach who's on the hot seat maybe doesn't want to say anything about
I
his,
totally get it too.
his
Just
boss.
find a new, just find a different phrase. Because I don't think there is literally anyone above your pay grade if you are a head coach on a football campus. So anyway, that said, Chris, you've been dialed on Utah all year. They have been somewhat unimpressive against the best teams they have played. But when they have played teams that they can beat, they lay the hammer down. And I think they're going to do that against Baylor this week, even on the road.
Yeah, Baylor's 5-4, playing for a bowl game, but it feels like 6-6 or so may not be enough for Dave Aranda to save his job. Baylor, by the way, 93rd in yards per carry defense. I think Utah runs all over them, covers the 8.5. Maryland at Illinois, 3:30 Eastern, FS1. Maryland, a 14.5 point favorite. Maryland trying to get to 6-6 in a bowl game. Maryland is currently, the record is 4-5. So it's going to be a bit of a tough finish. Is it enough to save Mike Locksley's job? We don't know. Week to week, as I talk to people around that program, nobody's really quite sure. They like the young talent there. They like Malik Washington. They don't love the idea of a coaching change and all of those young guys leaving. But you probably can't do something like 4-8 and think you deserve another year. 14.5 point underdog on the road. I'm actually going to take Maryland to cover that, but not win. Even though Maryland,
it feels like a lot of
October
points.
November, October, Maryland is bad, but I think they can cover.
Yeah, it feels like a lot of points. I like the offensive talent at Maryland, but there's just a level of lack of want to defensively that I feel like Illinois can take advantage of, and it won't be pretty and it won't be big plays, but I feel like Illinois wins this and covers it.
Penn State at Michigan State, 3:30 Eastern, CBS. The Land Grant Trophy is on the line, the biggest, most important trophy in all of sports. On the line between two teams that are winless in Big Ten play. So there's that.
How far the 3:30 window at CBS has fallen? Like crazy.
Yeah. Also, by the way, on Wednesday, Michigan State was hit with some NCAA penalties over recruiting violations under Mel Tucker. Whole situation was a little bit weird, and I'm kind of surprised by the results. MSU self-reported some violations in, I want to say 24 and 25, recruiting violations that involved a former, under Mel Tucker, the former GM, helping pay for recruits to come visit East Lansing, essentially. And I want to say it was like 10 to a dozen guys or something like that. MSU, and includes a couple of players who played for Michigan State. But because of that, they were ineligible. Michigan State had to vacate all the wins from 2022 to 2024. Now, it's only 14 wins because they haven't been great. But you have the vacated wins. You got a fine. You've got quite a few restrictions recruiting future-wise in terms of visits and countable hours and all these things. Kind of surprised how severe the forward-facing penalties are based on violations by former people who are no longer on the staff, and that they're violations that MSU self-reported. Like, it probably gives you more ammo as this Mel Tucker lawsuit is still going on, that you don't have to pay him anything. But man, like, Michigan State fans are pissed about this. They don't love that Michigan didn't have to vacate wins for the whole Connor Stallion situation. Now, you may not like the answer. The reason is you can only vacate wins if an ineligible player played. That didn't happen with Michigan. That did happen with Michigan State. That's why those are vacated. Vacating wins is dumb. I frankly don't think it matters or cares. No, nothing really matters. But like this whole situation, I come away with thinking like, why would Michigan State? What's the incentive for schools to like self-report and be proactive about this stuff? It's paying for official visits. Who's ever going to find out about that? It's so weird.
Well, you got to be bad about it. I mean, this is the same stuff that we've already mentioned Tennessee and Jerry Pruitt somehow. That's the same stuff they got hit for.
Yeah.
So
that's why it feels like that. It partially feels like I don't know this. It feels like you may have done this to kind of help bolster your case against Mel Tucker. But the NCAA still hit you with some pretty harsh forward-facing recruiting penalties. Anyway, as for this game, Penn State's a 7.5-point favorite. Michigan State, Jonathan Smith, hot seat, yes. Do these recruiting NCAA penalties make it less likely you fire him because it's going to make your job even less appealing to another coach? Potentially. So kind of a real just whole negative storm here right now against Michigan State. I like the backup that they played against Minnesota a couple weeks ago. I think the offense looked a lot better than it did with Aiden Giles. Just to have a quarterback who can keep an offense on schedule and not have to like freelance so much, it just worked better. And we'll see. But I think Penn State, too many NFL guys, even on the road, even after the Indiana loss, I think Penn State's just simply too talented and they just maul Michigan State and cover the 7.5.
Yeah, I like the under here because, like you said, I don't know that they're going to be able to move the ball. I worry about a letdown if you're Penn State because you really don't have a lot to play for at this point. But I think the defense is still good. You got a lot of, like you said, guys playing for NFL money. So I'm gonna go with Penn State, like in a nasty like 2010 type of game.
Virginia Tech at Florida State, 7:30 Eastern, ACC Network. Florida State, a 13.5-point favorite. Mike Norvell, the school has said we want to wait until the end of the season before making a decision. But you cannot lose to Virginia Tech with an interim head coach at home. You just cannot do it. And I do think it's possible because Virginia Tech has played very kind of up and down. Like you can see some things at times. I'm gonna say Virginia Tech covers. Florida State wins an ugly one, but Virginia Tech covers.
Yeah, Virginia Tech has been mostly competitive. Like they were beating Vanderbilt before they self-destructed. They were right there with South Carolina before they gave up some special teams touchdowns. We're not going to talk about the Old Dominion game. They lose to Georgia Tech by 15, Wake Forest by 7, Louisville by 12. I think they keep this competitive.
Our FCS game of the week is not an FCS game. It's Division III. And I want to shout out Wisconsin River Falls, who is playing Wisconsin Stout.
How many D3 teams does Wisconsin have? Like, how does Wisconsin have all of these low-level college football teams? It feels like there's like 100.
So the Wisconsin Intercollegiate Athletic Conference, the WIAC, that is basically the SEC of Division III. They've got Wisconsin Lacrosse, Wisconsin Whitewater, who's been a powerhouse, Wisconsin Stevens Point. Wisconsin
why are there
Lacrosse.
all these Wisconsin teams?
It's the whole conference.
I don't understand this. I know, but why? Why are they all playing
they're all
this league? Why are they all good?
But River Falls is fascinating. They are the smallest enrollment in the league. They went from 2000 to 2021 without having a winning season. They hadn't won a conference championship since 1998. And yet, they are now, I think, 8-1, ranked number 8 in the country. They're averaging 600 yards of offense per game, by far the most in the country at any level, led by the offensive coordinator, Joe Matheson, who I wrote about in my Coaching Carousel notebook on Wednesday. I'll link to it in the show notes. Just a guy he's 32 years old. He was a student assistant under Jerry Kill at Minnesota, kind of moved around a bit. Now he's at Wisconsin River Falls. He comes in 2019 as a receivers coach. 2020, he becomes the OC, but COVID happens. It creates this like offense by just pulling from all kinds of things. And since then, nobody can stop them. And they've had a winning season ever since. And the quarterback, Caleb Blaha, averaging 418 total yards per game on offense. He might be the best player in Division III. And River Falls beat Wisconsin Whitewater, the powerhouse, still a top 10 team, beat Wisconsin Whitewater 52-14. And last week they beat Wisconsin Lacrosse, clinched a share of the first conference championship since 1998. Again, no winning seasons since 2000 up until 2021. They play Wisconsin Stout this weekend. If they win, they will clinch an outright conference championship. So shout out to the River Falls Falcons. Got some good football over there in Wisconsin Division III. And this offense is Top Gun offense. Look up the clips on YouTube. It's very fun to watch them. Crazy tempo, wide receiver splits, QB run, lots of RPO. Always just trying to find the guy who's got single coverage in space and make a play. They're awesome.
They could use some of that scheme and talent and all the things that make them good in Madison. It's been a long year.
You know, I tweeted the story out, and a lot of Wisconsin fans were like, why do we not have this? Now, I don't know if it's going to necessarily work at that level. Part of the reason the offense is what it is because they don't have the players that Wisconsin Whitewater does. But remember that name, Joe Matheson, doing a really good job down there at River Falls. All right, highest over-under of the weekend. Utah State and UNLV, 70.5. I'm going to take the over.
Yeah, I appreciate that UNLV gave us a brief glimpse of who they were going to be in week 0, and they have consistently done that all season long. I was like, this is going to be a very fun team that just is completely like chaotic, and that has been kind of what UNLV has been all year long. I think this goes over as well.
Lowest, North Carolina, Wake Forest, 38.5.
Chris, have you been watching UNC of late?
I have been watching some UNC, and I am taking the under as a sign of respect for Bill Belichick and what they're doing with that defense, which is turning it into a pretty solid unit.
It is good. Watching North Carolina football games is like watching an NFL game from like 2002. It's it's been effective. It is not a super aesthetically pleasing brand of football, but they seem to have figured out some stuff. Gio Lopez has shown the last few weeks kind of why he's still out there. It's the first month of the season. You know, he was banged up, and you'd watch Max Johnson. You're like, why is Max Johnson not playing? But Gio's been pretty good the last couple weeks, so I think they go under here.
North Carolina's coming off. They beat Stanford last week, 20-15. Before that, they beat Syracuse 27-10.
Dominated Syracuse.
Those are both games under 38.5.
Mm-hmm.
They lost to Virginia in overtime 17-16. They were an inch away from a 2-point conversion that would have won them the game. Again, that's an under. And then they lost to Cal because they fumbled at the goal line at the very end of the game. That would have been an over. But this is a team that has not allowed. They haven't allowed more than 21 points since that bye week, since that blowout loss to Clemson. They figured things out on that side of the ball. Can they get to a bowl game? They finished with Wake, Duke, NC State. You got to win 2 out of the 3. Doable. It's doable. And if they pull a bowl game out of this, I will say Bill Belichick did a good coaching job because the roster's terrible.
Yeah.
But he is actually getting the most out of the guys on that side of the ball.
Yeah.
Agree? All right.
Yeah, and we've mentioned it, like they're improving. So there's something to be said for that. So.
There is, absolutely. All right. And with that, we're going to finish the show the way we always do, and that is by remembering some guys.
It's better than this. Guys being dudes.
And I'm going to go back to Pitt. I'm going to go back to the Peterman. Nathan Peterman, quarterback at Pitt from 2014 to 2015. He was part of that insane Syracuse Pitt game that was like 70-something to 60-something that one year. He also handed Clemson their only loss in the 2015 season. Clemson lost one game post the national championship. They lost to Nate Peterman and Pitt. I know everybody remembers him from the NFL and all the interceptions, but he was a pretty entertaining college quarterback for a couple years there at Pitt.
Doesn't he have a case as like the worst NFL quarterback starter of all time?
I saw Danny Cannell tweeted that like he might actually have the number, his like yards per attempt or something like that. Danny Cannell's.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how you could like measure that out. But yeah, a very fun college player, very poor NFL player that kept tripping and
Kept getting
falling
jobs.
into starting jobs. Like it'd be like week 16 and some team is 2-13. Nate Peterman starting today for the Raiders. Like, oh, okay, sure.
Actually, let me
I
see.
don't blame-
Is he wait, let me see if he's still in the
There's no way
NFL.
he's still in the
He
league.
is no, he practice squad for the Falcons last year, does not appear to be on a team right now.
That's still impressive. Chris, we had a great minds moment this week because we were both thinking Pitt guys. I went with Dion Lewis, dual threat running back. Guy had a fantastic career at Pitt, 2,800 yards in his 2 seasons, 30 touchdowns for him. I was curious what he was up to, and I looked it up, and he's in his 3rd year as the assistant running backs coach at Albany, and he is from Albany, upstate New York guy, grew up there. And that kind of made me happy because you know what that reads to me, Chris, is somebody who doesn't really need money, probably took care of himself. He can't be making more than, I don't know, 20,000, if that. Coaching, who knows if, that might even be more. But it seems like a guy who just went back to his hometown and is just coaching ball for the love of the game. Albany is FCS, right? Or are they Division II? I think Albany
FCS.
is like low-level FCS. Just coaching ball for the love of the game. 3 years. Like, it seems like he just wants to coach ball and live at home. And that's cool. So, shout out to Dion Lewis. Great player. Pretty good NFL career. But I remember him. Pitt had a great run of backs there for a while. And he was one of those.
Unfortunately, Albany is 1-9 this year. 2 years removed from a top 5 finish. They've really fallen off quickly, apparently, there at Albany.
Don't blame him. He's just the assistant running backs coach.
Dion Lewis, fun player at Pitt, Big East Offensive Player of the Year in 2009. In 2007, my freshman year at Michigan State, they welcomed and played Pitt. And in 2007, Michigan State beat them that year. Defensive coordinator for that Michigan State team, Pat Narduzzi. So Pat Narduzzi and Pitt,
there you go,
coming together. As for the listener nomination, not nominating a person themselves, but Addie on Spotify asks, quick question. Which current college football player will be a remember some guys in 10 to 15 years? I'm thinking Diego Pavia or Haynes King. David, what do you think?
So the answer here is Parker Navarro, Ohio quarterback. But you know who actually might?
Well, no, the answer. Well, the answer is Diego Pavia, 100%.
Maybe. Here's the problem with the Diego Pavia thing: is Diego Pavia is probably one of the 5 most famous college football players right now, and also is like in the thick of the Heisman race. Like, I don't know, he feels like a bit above like guy status.
What about Haynes King?
You know who I think we might have, considering how much people have thought about him and talked about him this year, is Joey Aguilar.
Yeah, I don't think most people knew Joey Aguilar until he got to Tennessee. Like,
That's what I'm saying. They do now. It's been a memorable year, one way or the other. I think for him. So I think people will remember him. And I would also, another name we should think about is Kevin Jennings.
Yes, Kevin Jennings is one I was thinking of. Maddox Madsen, the Boise State quarterback, is one. I'm looking through just like SEC lists here to see like who might really. Lenora Sellers won't end up that. I mean, like, there's a potential some of these guys, a lot of these quarterbacks we hyped up coming into the season that just don't do anything in the NFL.
I'm still holding my Lenora Sellers stock. I got to tell you.
So like
Shane Beamer went on the offensive this week and defended his OC hires, which have been better than people think they have been. But like Lenora Sellers with better receivers and a better play caller, whatever that means, whether that's in South Carolina next year, whether that's somewhere else, I'm holding my Lenora Sellers stock.
The typical not the usual candidate, usual remember some guys is like a guy we remember for college football, not for something they did in the NFL. Even though Peterman was kind of that there, and sometimes we do have people who are like that, but we generally try to lean toward people who play college football. I think Haynes King is absolutely going to be one of those guys. I think Eddie is right.
I think you're right. Yeah.
All right. That's going to do it here. We will be live on the Bunch Formation YouTube channel. Please subscribe and like all the videos, as well as on our Twitter accounts. We have figured out how to sync that up to the Twitter account. We get a lot more people in there when we do it that way. So we will be live for Bunch Formation After Dark when the night games end, generally around 11 p.m. ish. Is when we will try to go live. Whatever those, I forget which games are the night games, but when that chunk of games, your Texas Georgia, when those end, that's when we'll go live. We'll talk about the day that was. So for David Ubben, I'm Chris Vannini. Thank you for listening to another episode of Bunch Formation, and we will talk to you on Saturday night.
And if you want to make the playoff, bring back the turnover chain.